Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Frankie Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse Podcast.
Hey, I'm your host, Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talkhouse Podcast. This week I'm joined by
Nick Dawson, Editor-in-Chief of Talkhouse Film.
Nick. Welcome back to the show. This is a very special edition in a couple of ways. First off, today's conversation features Black Thought, lead MC of The Roots, in conversation with brilliant comedian Wyatt Cenac. Second of all, this is our first intro we've recorded in quarantine. How are you holding up over there?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you? I know it's been a rough couple of weeks.
Yes, I've been very, very ill with coronavirus for the last 2 weeks. I have never had the snot kicked out of me by a virus like this before. I'm talking to you from my bed 14 days into the virus. So if you notice, listeners, that I'm a little bit less exuberant than usual, it is not to do with today's episode. It is just that I've had the wind knocked out of me a little bit. Listeners, we hope that all of you have been safe and healthy and sheltered with your loved ones. And on that note, let's get on with the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
For listeners who may be newer to the Talkhouse Podcast, On Air Fest is this amazing podcast festival that happens each spring at the Wyatt Hotel in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. We presented there before and we're super psyched to be asked back. I took a couple days there and caught some amazing conversations and performances. Talib Kweli with John Forte, Hanif Abdurraqib, who wrote the great Tribe Called Quest book last year discussing hip-hop mixtapes. I got to see some radio legends in action, Stretch and Bobbito. And I accidentally sent half of the podcasting community in New York into quarantine when just a couple days after the festival, I found out that my wife had tested positive and I tested positive and our daughter's positive. As soon as we heard that my wife tested positive, Talkhouse reached out to On Air, who let all of the participants and attendees know, because it was really important to us that people know to get tested and to go into quarantine to protect their friends and family and strangers here in New York City. One person whose name you might know that I sent into quarantine and felt terrible about was Ira Glass. It was so nice to see him at the festival. We had a wonderful catch-up. Thankfully, he has not showed any symptoms, but he's hosted and produced their show this week from quarantine at his home. I spoke with my very dear brother-in-law, Ben Calhoun, who's a longtime producer on This American Life and Serial, about the fears and hopes and just how honestly crazy the experience of having coronavirus with your family is. And so you can check that out tomorrow on This American Life. But right now, I want to transport you guys back to a more innocent time before New York and so much of the country had been hit by quarantine. And I want to take you to On Air Festival 2020. Nick, can you set this talk up for us, man?
Absolutely. We have two amazing guests, and this is a terrific conversation, and it was just really perfect to have this come together for On Air Fest. I think this is one of the best episodes we've done, and it was before everything went to shit. We can look back and sort of revel in how great this conversation was.
Totally. And I have to say, Wyatt and Tariq took in a lot.
Definitely. We started with beards and beard grooming.
There were some amazing beards on display, Nick. And just before we went on stage, listeners who have been to our events know I have a pretty big beard, which often looks a little bit like I'm on some desert island. But Black Thought actually groomed his with a pick before going out. I was very impressed.
That is very impressive. And there's lots of stuff that they talk about that I never knew about, from Tariq singing doo-wop as a kid and being at school with Boys to Men.
Oh my God. And Beanie Siegel?
And jazz bassist Christian McBride, one of the greatest bassists ever.
I mean, this school, I hope that they're getting some fat endowment checks because their students have sold millions and millions of records. It's amazing.
For sure. And of course, he was at school with Questlove. That's where the Roots have their roots. So those are some amazing stories we get to hear. Also about Wyatt's early adventures in showbiz with some pretty colorful characters. And also there's an amazing story from him about a disastrous and hilarious time that he had hosting a CMJ hip-hop show.
On that topic of disastrous live shows, we hear about Tariq floundering right in front of Jay-Z at Jay-Z's tribute gala.
I can only imagine what that must have been like. Truly, truly terrifying. And we also get to hear about Tariq and sort of this new burst of creativity that he's had since he's been sober, which is very, very cool to hear.
And, which is now a suspicious idea, the need for adult playgrounds.
Yeah, it makes sense when you hear them talking about it. Out of context, a little confusing.
Should we roll the tape?
Let's roll the tape.
Talk House podcast host, Elia Einhorn. Yeah, what's up? What's up on air? How you guys feeling? How many of you are admittedly podcast nerds? Because I feel being here like we are at the podcast epicenter of the universe here at On Air Fest. Today we have created a very special pairing for you. We have comedian Wyatt Cenac and Black Thought of The Roots. Now, let me tell you a little about these folks, just in case you've been living under a rock. Tariq Trotter, aka Black Thought, is definitely one of the busiest artists working today. In fact, he told me backstage that he wakes up at 3:30 every morning so that he can work before his kids wake up. This is a true fact. He's the lead MC of seminal hip-hop group The Roots, who have released 14 LPs. They're about to release their 15th this year. The Roots are also the house band on NBC's The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. Black Thought hosts the Philly comedy showcase Delirious, and he's a co-organizer of the legendary Roots Picnic, which this year is headlined by DaBaby, Summer Walker, and Meek Mill. In October, the new satirical musical Black No More by Oscar winner John Ridley and Tariq opens off-Broadway. Tariq is going to be starring in it, as well as having written the music. That adds to his IMDb. He's also appeared in Bamboozled, The Deuce, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt as an actor, and so many more. Comedian Wyatt Cenac made his name as a star correspondent and writer on The Daily Show. He's written for King of the Hill and starred on BoJack Horseman, Marin, Inside Amy Schumer, and loads more. He's dropped comedy specials on Comedy Central and Netflix and hosted the web series AKA Wyatt Cenac, as well as most recently HBO's Wyatt Cenac's Problem Areas. For the next 30, 35 minutes, I turn it over to you. Come on out. Wyatt Cenac, Black Thought.
All right, now I guess we have to talk.
I guess.
No, this is very cool. Thanks for showing up to Williamsburg on a Saturday morning.
Come on, man. Thanks for deeming me interesting enough.
Wait, I never said that. Number one. This is really just an opportunity to try and give you some verses for your next album.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to up my game as a ghostwriter. I was trying to think back because Elliot asked when did we first meet, and I can't remember. I have to assume that it was probably something like maybe the Daily Show rally in D.C. or something like that.
Maybe. Oh, yeah. What was that? Was it the riot?
The rally to restore
sanity.
I think it was either that or maybe when I came on Fallon.
Maybe, probably. I don't know, man. I think, whenever we met, our beards had, met long before then.
That's the thing most people don't know about beards, is that beards, they know one another through the centuries.
Absolutely.
And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, I see your growth pattern, and I'm either in awe or envy.
Beard gang.
Yeah. You do have a good beard, and that's a very Philly beard.
Yes, it's very Philly, yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, you just cut your beard, I think, a little bit.
I just got a haircut.
Yeah,
because I can't. I love that this whole thing is just going to be about male grooming. Who'd have thought? Black Thought and Wyatt Cenac get together, and they just talked about grooming the whole time. Mine goes wild man real quick.
Yeah.
I've always envied just the sort of sharp line of your beard and your ability for it to grow out and in a way that makes sense when mine grows out. If it gets too long, it starts to fork in this weird way that I look like I'm somehow related to the devil.
Oh, wow. Well, it's funny that you would say that because when I go to my barber, like if I want it brought to a certain sort of point, I tell him to like Dracula that shit out. And, so it's kind of, the devil Dracula thing. But I talk to my beard every morning. Positive reinforcement, that stuff, it helps.
See, I feel like mine right now, as more gray gets into it, I feel like it's giving me negative reinforcement.
Oh, no.
Like, what are you doing here? This is all gonna go Santa Claus white soon.
I mean, but that's sort of the point. I love the salt and pepper, like, the silver coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every morning silver fox or silverback. I don't know. I look at my beard. I say you was smart. Fox. You was important. You was, and then I just start my day.
That's a good way to start the day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
it's my version of the power pose.
Okay. Yeah. It's just some beard affirmations.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I mean, I guess though, just thinking about affirmations, like so much of hip hop is like built in this idea of affirmations. It's built in affirming oneself and trying to kind of say, I am the best MC. I am I am the fastest, the smartest. And so there is like a very strange kind of power of positivity that I think people don't often associate with hip hop that exists there.
It is. I mean, the foundation of hip hop, of the MC, began as sort of just like someone who was needed to be the DJ's hype man.
Right.
It was all about the DJ in the 70s and in the early 80s. And the MC was just, when the DJ was trying to figure out what to play next or, needed a little break, when there was a pregnant pause, then, his hype man would get to speak a little bit. Otherwise, it was just to get the crowd sort of into what the DJ was doing. So you would hype your DJ up in the sense of, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, or when Will Smith would be talking about Jeff as the Magnificent, and you sort of talk about how your DJ is faster than a speeding bullet and can leap tall buildings in a single bound. But then at some point that shifted, and it became more about oneself. Right. So the whole braggadocio, it's like well, my DJ is Superman, but I'll whip Superman's ass. You know what I mean? So
That feels like it can create some serious infighting issues. If you're my DJ's Superman, but I am his kryptonite. For you, what was it that initially drew you into the MC?
I've just always been a performer. I started at a really young age performing like doo-wop songs.
Really?
And, yeah. We used to get those 8-track cassettes that...
I don't know what those are. I'm very young.
It's an antiquated form of technology.
Like Napster? How's that guy doing? What's he up to?
We used to play these compilations in my house that... there was lots of doo-wop music on there. I mean, but it would be all sorts of stuff. It would be, maybe like Bowser and those guys.
Sha-na-na.
Yeah, like the Sha-na-na. Now you're showing your age. Like, oh, Sha-na-na. Like,
no, it's a very popular meme that's going around. Is the Sha-na-na meme? Everybody knows the Sha-na-na meme.
It would be like Sha-na-na sort of stuff, and then it would be like splish splash. I was taking a bath. And, the Monster Mash and all that sort of stuff, and those are the sort of songs that I would perform when I was 6 or 7.
I thought you were about to say when you were 20.
But then
we got this MC coming in. Splish splash, I was taking a bath. I win.
Everybody say splish. I guess around in the 3rd grade, I did my first talent show, and it was a competition, school sort of deal, and we sang a song. We covered a DeBarge song. I think it was like "Ooh" and "I Like It" or something.
Okay.
And that was like the song. That was like the R&B smash hit of the moment. And we thought we would win and we get the girls, and we didn't. We lost the competition.
Yeah.
So, and I think we lost to some guys who were rapping and breakdancing and doing that whole thing. So the next year, when I was in the 4th grade, I decided to compete again, but to get a rap group together.
Oh, wow.
So I got a rap group together, and it was myself, a friend of mine, one of my classmates, this guy named Wyatt, I think, and then Beanie Siegel. You know the rapper Beanie Siegel?
Yeah.
So the three of us, we got a group together when Beans was in the 3rd grade though, but yeah, when I was in the 4th. And we rocked and we did this thing and won. We won the talent show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's also interesting how, music and just talent shows in general, I don't know if there are as many, local talent shows today as I feel like there were, when we were kids.
Yeah, there aren't.
Yeah, and that, I feel like the talent show is such an interesting way for a kid to kind of explore and develop and figure out a little bit of what their voice is. Because I remember, I think I was probably junior high school, I knew that I liked performing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I liked comedy, but I was living in Dallas, Texas, and so I didn't really know how one finds their way onto television from
Right.
Texas. But I also liked singing. And I remember I was in my church choir and stuff. And at some point, I remember I had these 2 friends, Da Vinci and Kim, and the 3 of us decided we were gonna start a little a cappella singing group and try to get in some talent shows. And I think Da Vinci got us hooked up with a manager named Champagne.
Oh man, I mean, it sounds like Da Vinci and Champagne were destined to work together.
Yeah. That's
Wyatt, not so much.
that was kind of what Champagne was saying.
That's funny, but no, yeah, the talent show, man, it's sort of a lost, art form.
Yeah.
And later in life, once I was in high school, that's how Questlove and I sort of really, bonded and really became what we were different. I think we were called Radioactivity at the time, but what became the Roots was again about talent show and just being popular in school. And these guys, Boys to Men, were an a cappella group that were super popular at our school. And I think at that time they weren't called Boys to Men yet; they were called Unique Attraction.
Sounds like a male strip club.
I know, right? But yeah, so they were singing, and we had this annual talent show called The Sentimental Journey.
That also sounds like a strip club.
Right.
I feel like there are a lot of people who showed up to Sentimental Journey, the talent show, thinking they were going to a strip club. Especially when they thought Unique Attraction was going to be there.
Right. And they're like, wait, what is this?
Yeah, there were just a lot of bachelor and bachelorette parties that showed up and were like, wait a minute. Oh, but this is good.
Yeah, so we we sort of started doing what we do so we could compete with them. And I think the first time we performed together in high school, it was Questlove and myself and Christian McBride played bass for us.
Oh wow!
Who would later go on to become arguably the greatest bassist, jazz bassist of all time.
Yeah.
So
that's very cool that there was this creative incubator that existed in Philly that you got to be a part of, and just I feel like that's one of those things that people don't always take into account is just how connected sometimes people can be creatively in this way where, oh yeah, we watched each other grow up and I gave you a little something and then that may have impacted you and you gave me a little something and that changed the way I thought, but we all were pushing each other in this way that we all got to succeed and we all got to find our own musical voice and platforms.
Yeah, that's very real. And, I was always primarily a visual artist. That's how I wound up in the High School for Creative and Performing Arts where, the Roots began. Yeah. And, it was that energy of which you speak was so, tangible that, I would cut my visual art classes just to go and absorb whatever sort of other medium. It was like I was over, my type of art at that point. And I would go and hang out, in the dance classes. And I would go and hang out and,
I like that you looked at the crowd as though you were waiting to see if they were going to be like, is he going to dance for us now? Is the crowd going to start going, dance, 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 dance? And if they do, will I, Tariq, get up and show them the dancer inside of me?
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, man, no matter what.
Well, because they haven't started going, dance, dance,
right.
dance.
Now, if you guys start chanting a specific dance, like if you guys are like limbo, then, I might get tricky with it. But yeah, I would cut my classes, to go and watch, Questlove practice drums, or Christian McBride, or Joey DeFrancesco, Boys to Men. Like all these guys were, just in school, like, right up the hall.
Yeah.
And I mean, probably, like already super, super good. So it's like, yo, do I want to sit in here and, paint, or do I want to go, here end of the road down the hall?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so.
Do you still? You said you got into the high school for visual arts.
Yeah.
Are you still doing any of that? Do you still paint? Do you still draw?
A little bit. I do. I still draw. I still paint. I'm doing a couple collaborative efforts with some of my, some friends of mine who are artists this year. I'm actually working on something right now with an exhibit to open around June in Japan with the artist Hank Willis Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he and I work. We actually been working together with a larger collective of artists, not only visual artists, but just a larger creative collective called The Wide Awakes that you probably, people are going to be hearing about. That shit finna drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you got to say it, rap way.
Yeah.
That shit finna drop.
Yeah.
Well, if you're looking for any
we're good.
subjects to paint, I'm just saying, I got this haircut, the beard's cut.
I'm gonna give you my man Champagne's number.
I have a feeling I know how this is gonna go. Yeah. This is not gonna go well for me. I'm curious, just thinking about just what you were saying as far as like going into high school, thinking about visual arts, and then finding your way into music. It's interesting now as you're venturing into theater, like how much of that is a similar thing to high school Tariq, like being around in a city where there is like a vibrant theater scene and being able to have access to that. Is that some of what drove you into wanting to do this show?
I feel like that's all of it, that's all of it. I've been around, I've been doing what I do for such a long time that
107 years.
Yeah. You get,
yeah.
I'm a little jaded, I'm just like, I'm over, sort of the new feel of certain mediums in which I work and that I've worked in for a long time. So when an opportunity presents itself for me to do something new, it's all storytelling. So when I'm able to, to tell a different story in a different way, then it's exciting again, and it has that new smell and new feel again for me. But because I was exposed to all of it at a young age, and when I was young and impressionable, I feel like it's just sort of in me, So branching out into theater. For some people who are sort of just finding out, it's like, wow, head explodes sort of deal. But for me, it feels like the natural progression.
Yeah. Well, and it feels like I think about living in New York, I see more theater. Like I feel like in the last year or so, I've seen like whether it was like Slave Play or Fairview or even like The Play That Goes Wrong. Like there are just things that
humble bragging about all the plays you see. Like.
Yeah, let's go play for play. I saw Fairview. What'd you see?
I saw Whirly Burl.
Oh, that's not even a play.
Deep dive.
I think you just made up a thing. I think you just made up a name, and I don't have my phone here to fact check it. Nah. But I think about like living here, because there is so much theater around, I never, prior to living in New York, would think about going to shows.
Right.
And then to go see shows, especially something like a show like Fairview or thinking about a show like Slave Play, where they fuck with the form and they bring a different perspective and voice into a space that I didn't always feel like I had access to. And, you know, but in that way, it's like, oh, this is very cool, just this other medium that you have at your disposal to tell stories. And I think similarly, like with stand-up, for me, that's a medium where I'm like, oh, I'm not as excited by it in the way that I used to be.
Right.
And not that I'm like, I want to go do a stage play, but what I see when I go see shows are like, oh, wow, here's a way to take the stage and the spoken word on stage and shift it and change it and do different things and evolve it in these ways. And I don't know if I was in another city, if I would be as, if I'd be looking at it that way.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's any place like New York for that, you know, as far as just being, you know, completely immersed in all that culture. And in the same way you've been doing comedy so long that it's not exciting for you anymore now.
Well, stand-up. Comedy is exciting, but stand-up.
Stand-up is super exciting for me because it's some new shit, you know? So,
So do you want to do a tight five right now?
I mean, whatever. I'll do a tight five and you spit a 16.
All right. Sure. Yeah. I once had to host a CMJ hip hop show, the CMJ Music Festival, and I had to like host it, and I don't know why they asked me to host it, and it was kind of a nightmare situation, accidentally.
I can imagine.
Well, hold on a second. Well, no, because a couple things happened. First off, I was just kind of like doing bits in between the artists. And so at one point, I was like, oh, this is a hip hop show. I should freestyle. And so I just kept pretending I was freestyling, but just doing like Parents Just Don't Understand. And I was like, okay, I just came up with this one. Okay, here's the situation. My parents, and I would just do like, and I would just keep doing versions of it. But then ultimately I got in trouble because there were some guys out front of the venue who were trying to hawk CDs, and they like gave me a CD, and I had asked them like, oh, are you coming into the show? And they were kind of like, nah, fuck that. And so then I thought, I was like, oh, there were some guys outside that they were hawking their CD, but they were like, oh, fuck this show. Should we play their CD? And so I put this, I like the DJ was like, no. And then it was like, and so, but then I just kept like, I had the CD and I was like making fun of it and just like going through the track listings because there were like a couple of songs. There was like Mr. Do You Right and Mr. Do You Right Part 2 and Mr. Do You Right Part 4. And I was just like making fun of all this, and like the DJ was like, and then somebody in the crowd was like, watch out. And one of the headliners on the show, that was their proteges.
Wow.
And I had been shitting on their proteges.
That's crazy.
And so then I was like, oh, fuck, I'm a shithead. And so I went back on stage, I apologized. And
now
then
the damage had been done, man.
Well, but then I had invited the guys. I was like, I went backstage, I was like, you're not on the lineup, but I have to kill like 10 minutes. Would you all want to come out and just like, one, I'll apologize publicly, but two, you all just like, make this your CMJ showcase. You got 5 minutes. And they were like, nah. And then I was just like, I'm gonna get fucking beat up after this. And I've never been back.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, I'm big Do You Right. You talking about little Do You Right?
Yeah.
Kick your ass, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's a valuable lesson. So I don't spit bars anymore because it'll get me hurt. Yeah.
And that's also why I don't do comedy now. I do. I try. I guess if I bomb, like once I really bomb badly, I'll probably be like, no, I'm not doing that shit anymore.
But I feel like I don't know. I feel like there's an element of performing. Like you've had music shows that haven't gone the way you hoped.
Oh yeah.
What's the worst music show you've ever had?
Okay, the worst music show that I've done, and it wasn't received, super terribly, because it was in a room. The whole music industry was in this room, and but they were all drunk and just full of really, really good food, and it was like one of those. It was a gala, and some folks were being honored, and one of the people that we had to honor, the Roots, we were honoring Jay-Z, who had recently. He had signed us to a record deal. We were his artists, newly signed to Def Jam at the time. I think there was like I want to say a Mariah Carey or Whitney Houston tribute right before us, where Yolanda Adams and like a full choir just like destroyed. They just killed shit. And then she was done. And they presented the award or whatever, and then she said, if you guys think that was something, wait until you see what's coming up next. And she really hyped us up. And we got on stage, and it was the Roots, and we had our good friend Robert Glasper sitting in on keyboard, and Talib Kweli was rapping, was performing with me. Then we had a singer with us too. It may have been Jill Scott, or it was like one of the, a singer who often works with us. And we got up there, and where we had been, sound checking all day and rehearsing and stuff, there were all of these, the whole stage was full, the room even was full of teleprompters with all of Jay-Z's lyrics, so I didn't have to really commit any of it to memory. And we were doing a bunch of songs that I just wasn't familiar with. But when we got up there to perform, all of the lyrics disappeared. Like the teleprompters were blank. And the whole room, and it's like, everyone was there, like the whole industry, literally, like everyone. And, Jay-Z sitting up there in the front row, like, like, kill it. And I turned to Kweli, and I was like, give me like my first line or something. And he was like, I don't know. And so he turned away because he was trying to remember his shit. And where I would normally be able to communicate with Quest, for some reason, they had his drum kit. Like he was enclosed in a plexiglass box. So he knew what I was supposed to say, but I couldn't hear him. So he was just drumming, like yelling, and he was like, yo, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, I don't know what you're saying. So I just got up there, I just ad-libbed. I did it like my best Jay-Z, like, like,
I mean, there is a moment you could have just gone to Jay-Z and been like how does this start?
But,
excuse me, how do you start your song?
Yeah. It didn't, that was my worst feeling performance.
Yeah.
But even after the show was, done, when it was all said and done, Jay-Z and Diddy, all those guys, they said, yo, y'all killed that shit.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know we didn't. We didn't kill it. But you know what? That was the last time I performed without a separate sort of system. Like where I'm able to hear, like now when we perform, we have a separate like mic line that we hear in our monitors that only we can hear.
Oh.
So like never again, even if I forget something, if I forget a cue or a transition or something, Quest is able to yell it into a different mic that only we on stage can hear, and then it'll jog my memory.
Yeah, or like if you want to do changes or anything like that, you can. Oh, that's...
So, we're able to sort of change on the fly. But I never forgot anything. I mean, I just commit stuff to memory now, even if it's going to be on a teleprompter.
Right.
I also learned that lesson, but,
Yeah, no, that's got to be a strange one, because it's not like everybody booed or anything like that. It's just you had a plan in mind.
I booed myself. I booed myself that day, man. But that was, out there, that sort of vulnerability, just getting it, in front of, someone who you obviously have a great deal of respect and admiration for, to just drop the ball like that and just be exposed is what it's like to come out and do stand-up like every day. Like that sort of just like vulnerability, just out there is, what it feels like to do stand-up. And that's why I have a great deal of respect for, stand-up comedians, because there is no light show, there's no band, you know what I mean? There's no one else to blame it on if it doesn't work.
Right.
So
I mean, sometimes you can blame it on the crowd.
Right.
But
I don't, what the fuck is wrong with them today?
But no, it always does kind of come back to you, and there is this raw thing that exists because it's an immediate response. Like you are being creative, and it's okay, I've spent weeks or months trying to hone these words that I thought this was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I have now just spent all this time trying to shape it into something that I think someone will be entertained by. And then I go out, I put it in front of people, and there's an immediate response as far as if they like it or if they don't. And if they don't like it, I have a dozen more ideas behind it that I hope they like one of them,
Right.
or this is going to be a long night.
Right.
And that, there is a
But
very
when they do like it, that's the best high.
it's always it's always felt like a drug to me, and I think that's
Yeah,
part
no,
of
it really is.
that's part of why I think stand up is not as interesting to me anymore in that way, is because it's such a great high. Even when it's terrible, you find yourself wanting that high. So there's like, oh, that show went terribly, but I want to get back on stage because
Right.
I want that high again, and
Yeah.
I want to try. And you just keep chasing. For me, I felt like I'm just chasing a high. I'm not.
I'm just chasing the dragon, bro.
Yeah, I was just chasing that laugh dragon.
Yeah.
Ooh, I got a little bit. Feels good. But it is this very weird thing, because it is asking you to kind of open yourself up in this way. We kind of joked about it, that like you can blame the audience, but it's not really the audience. But the audience does play a role in it too. And I
Yeah.
think both, and it's easier to see it with music, I think sometimes, to me at least, than with something like comedy, where I don't think the audience always appreciates the role that they play.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
if
that's
the
very true.
audience shows up, if the whole front row of the audience has their arms crossed and, you know, like, or if somebody's on their phone, like that energy, you're not giving that energy to the comedian, and that energy is infectious. And so, you know, the great thing about comedy is you're in a dark room. If the person behind you laughs, you're more inclined to laugh. You're more inclined to feel those endorphins, you know,
Right.
and have that sort of reaction in a way. And I think with music, it's so easy to see that, because people dance, and people, like, you know, the people on the left or the right of you start moving and swaying to the music.
It's infectious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to see as an audience member. And I feel like I've been to music shows where the front row people are just kind of like sitting, and they're very like wine and cheese or whatever.
Nah, man.
And you hear people in the back who are just like, you're wasting that seat. And they're just like so mad. Like, you should be back here. Like, I should be up there. The musicians need me.
We do, though. That's real. It's like, you know, that's why they call it a concert.
Yeah.
You know, like we're all, you know, performing together. So,
But I don't think people see that in comedy. There's not somebody who's like in the back of a comedy club who's like,
right.
You in the front on your phone, you don't deserve to see this person tell jokes.
No, that's real.
There's not even like, I feel like at a concert too, like if somebody in the front row gets up and goes to the bathroom, you're guaranteed somebody from like the nosebleeds is gonna try to take their seat.
Totally.
That doesn't happen at a comedy show.
Right.
There's not like, oh, those people left. Ooh, let's get closer.
But at, you know, in a concert, like a musical performance, if someone gets up or someone leaves, you know, their post in the front row, you're not gonna, you know, stop the show to make a spectacle of them. You know, the way that one might in a comedy show.
I mean, it depends on how they leave.
I guess, it does depend on how, you're right.
Yeah. Or it depends on if you're doing, if you're honoring Jay-Z and he gets up and leaves in the middle, like, he doesn't know any of my songs.
Right. Oh, that would have been the word. That might have been career, like, ending.
Oh.
Definitely damning, you know?
Yeah.
Like, had he left, like, you know what? This is just...
Yeah. Just got up, like, didn't say anything.
Yeah, wow. But, yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. With this show that you're getting ready to do, because it's something that you haven't done before, I know that you've talked about the excitement of it, but also how do you prepare for doing theater? And I guess on some level, because you all toured for so long, there's an element of that sort of theater schedule that I feel like you can relate to, but how do you prepare for this that feels so different than, like, you know, for 2 days we're in Detroit and now we're in, you know, East Lansing.
The difference for me has been, already, we've done quite a few workshops of this show. The show is called
Thanks
Black.
for the
it's called
invitation.
Black.
I didn't get
I
invited.
thought I did it. Didn't I invite you?
You didn't invite me to anything.
Man, I really thought I thought
No.
I did. But we will be opening in the fall, and that's when it'll be, on its legs and at its best, and then I'll invite you. I didn't want you to make fun of me.
I wasn't going to make fun of you. And when you say you'll invite me, are you giving me a ticket or are you just inviting me to buy a ticket?
How whack is that? Like, you want to come out and check us out?
You show
Okay,
up to,
cool. Just
show up
I'm
to
gonna send you a link to Ticket Tribe.
the ticket master or whatever. Especially if it was like a heartfelt email, like, yo, it means a lot. If you would come to this show, it would be truly great to see you there.
Yeah.
I respect I respect you, and I respect like just you as someone who appreciates stuff. Here's the ticket link. Yeah. Also, it'd be great if you could sit as close to the orchestra. Like, please get the most expensive ticket you can.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But the show, you were saying the title of the show.
Oh, the title of the show is Black No More. And it's based on sort of this Afro-futurist novel that came out in 1932. It's written by George Schuler. And so our show, the book came out in 32. Our show is set in 1929 and 1930 in Harlem. I just know it's going to be a huge undertaking for me because I'm going to attempt to do both the Tonight Show and this show. And we'll be doing 8 shows, 8 showings of the play per week.
Right.
And then there are, 5 tapings of the Tonight Show per week. So, it's lots of heavy lifting involved, and it's a huge sort of challenge, but I'm here for it. I just want to do something. I want to do what's never been done before. And I was just like I was telling you earlier, not drinking and not smoking and just being able to mentally compartmentalize and have like definitive separation between like what project I'm working on and when has been huge for me and has sort of allowed me to do my music and work in a solo capacity and in a roots capacity and then, do the Tonight Show and then even in this play to be a producer and a composer and then jump on the other side and act in the show. I think if I was, smashed, then I wouldn't be able to do any of that.
Or you'd be doing it and it would be amazingly
I don't
weird.
think so.
It'd get weird.
It would definitely be weird.
Yeah. When did you go sober?
December 2018.
Okay.
So a nice little long enough now to say like I'm sober. Like I can say like I don't drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not that I'm not gonna drink again or smoke weed again. It's just that, I'm sort of goal oriented and I want the next time, my next glass of wine or, spliff, I want it to be on my own beach.
Sure.
So,
In the meantime, just so that alcohol and marijuana doesn't go to waste, I'll do it for you. Anyone who goes sober that I know, I'm like, if you need me to pick up the slack for you,
it's funny.
I'm happy to.
I mean, well, that's a nice way to look at it. Like my friends look at it like my sobriety is a prison term. It's like, damn, yo, I heard, man. Like, yo, man, when you coming back? Like,
well, there is a weird thing about that as far as like being an adult. Like when you're a kid, there's so many sort of social places where alcohol isn't a thing. Like there's a playground, there's like, basketball court, there's all these different places you can go. And I feel like once you become an adult, like the bars are the closest things that adults have to playgrounds.
To the playground, yeah, that's true.
And it does feel like, oh yeah, maybe like if there were some adult only like swing sets, it might be easier to be like, oh yeah, I want to go catch up with some friends and we're just gonna swing for a little bit. We're just gonna swing, we're gonna catch up, we're just gonna hang out, ride a slide, get on the merry-go-round, and just, after a while we'll hang out, then we'll all be tired, go take naps.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's so much I feel like of adult social life is rooted around bars.
Yeah, the watering hole.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We need playgrounds. If there's anything to be taken from this
Yeah,
conversation,
adult playgrounds.
Adult playgrounds and really just beard grooming.
Yeah, sure.
Beard
Like
grooming.
that's what we want you to leave here today with.
Yeah, those are the bookends. We started talking about facial hair growth and grooming, and we've ended talking about the need for adults to have slides that they can go on.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be the weird bearded guy at the playground.
Alone. No.
And on that note, Wyatt Cenac, Black Thought on Airfest, thank you so much for having us. We are the Talk House Podcast. Big love to Scott, Gemma, and all of you for coming out. Thank you so much. Peace.
Black Thought, Wyatt Cenac, thank you so much for joining us here on the Talk House Podcast. And on Airfest, we had a ball. Thanks again.
Thank you to On Air for hosting us, to Elia for presenting the talk, and to Sam Bair and Mark Yoshizumi for recording it.
Mark is, of course, our co-producer as well. We have some great conversations coming for you over the next weeks and months, including Waxahachie, aka Katie Crutchfield, in conversation with comedian Whitmer Thomas, Jarvis Cocker, he of Pulp, with the Magnetic Field's Stephen Merritt, Black Belt Eagle Scout with Sasami, and many more.
Jarvis Cocker, Stephen Merritt is the most Elia conversation ever. I am so looking forward to hearing that.
It's the only thing that kept me going through coronavirus. I have to live to host this episode.
Yeah, I'm glad that they kept you going, dude. The Talkhouse Podcast theme song is by The Range. And of course, go check out our socials at Talkhouse on all platforms for some great images from the Wyatt Black Thought conversation.
Oh, there was a great one too. I just have to shout this out. One of those moments of being with legends. Wyatt, Tariq, Talib Kweli, John Forte, and then there's me. I wasn't part of the legendary lineup there, but my beard was, I think. You can check that out at Talkhouse's Instagram.
That's a fine lineup of beards. And I have to say, like, after I found out you tested positive, I was terrified that you had been hanging out in such esteemed company. So happy to hear everybody's doing okay.
Oh, thank God. I must not have been transmitting at that point because nobody who we've talked to, who I got to see there, has tested positive. And God, I just send so much love to the podcasting community and everybody who's going through this right now in New York and America and beyond.
Yeah, people, please stay indoors, stay safe. Do not spread this thing.
Take care of yourself and the people you love. Maybe a stranger if they need it. But don't get within 6 feet of the stranger. I don't know. But till next week, I'm Elia Einhorn.
I'm Nick Dawson.
And you know what? Fuck the coronavirus.
Peace.
Peace.